Om Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvabhignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir me sada Yenakshara samamnayam Adhigamya maheshwarat Kritsnam vyakaranam proktam Tasmai paninaye namaha Vakyakaram bararuchim Bhashyakaram patanjalim Paninim sutrakarancha Pranatosmi munitrayam Vagartha viva samprikto Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati parameshwaro Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Namaste everyone, Happy New Year. So, some cobwebs must be there of Sanskrit. So we'll do a little bit of a quick review and then we'll continue on. So we were seeing, let's go here. Let me zoom in here. So we're studying which part? We're studying Panchavritti. Okay, so that's our text that we're taking up, Panchavrittayaha. These 5 types of derived words, right? So that's that there's vrittis, and then there's vigrahas. There's these explanatory sentences which help explain the new derived word, right? So we saw that there's in Sanskrit, right, there's always there's verbs and nouns. Within those, we can see there's dhatus and pratipadikas, right? Because we're focusing on those 2, really. So because we're deriving dhatus and we're deriving pratipadika. So there's only one type of vritti which makes a new dhatu, right? That's called sanadyanta dhatu vritti. Shorthand, we can just call it sanadi, right? Sanadi vritti. But not sanadyanta dhatu vritti. Right? That's a new dhatu which is made from a different dhatu, or it's made from a subanta. Okay. The second is a krit vritti. We call, and then the word we make is a Kṛdanta. We're going to be talking about that today. A little bit more details. So we'll see that a little bit later. This third, we call it taddidanta vrittihi or taddita vrittihi, right? So these 4 are new pratipadikas, right? The first one is a new dhatu. The next 4 are new pratipadikas. So the second one is a new pratipadika made from a root. That's krit vritti. Taddita vritti is a new pratipadika made from a pratipadika. Okay, a new pratipadika made from a pratipadika. Samasa vritti, right? Where it's a new pratipadika made by compounding multiple nouns. Okay, and then ekashishya vritti, when we have a new pratipadika, when we keep one of them out of many. Okay, so those are our 5, right? So sanadyanta dhatu vrittihi, krit vrittihi or kṛdanta, taddita, samasa, and ekashesha. Right? So can we try to remember those 5, or at least the names? Okay. So one day when I call you and I say one of these words, right, you'll be, at least you'll have some recognition that so these were. You know, in the last few classes a while back, we were talking about sanadyanta. Okay, dhatu vritti. That's where we started. So we were making new roots. We've focused on only two. In that, we focused on nich anta, nich pratyaya, ending roots. So we added this nich. Nich, we only end up adding an e. Okay. And then we saw sananta. We talk about san pratyaya. Okay. San pratyaya, so nich, it gives the meaning to make something happen, to do. So if I want to make someone do something. So kr, if I add nich, it becomes kari. Right? That's to make someone do. Gami, to make someone go, etc. San has the meaning of to desire. Right? When I add the dhatu much, which means to be free, and I add san, it becomes mumuksh. Right? So mumuksha is the desire to be free. And a mumukshu is the one who desires to be free. So we saw that in Sananta, there's this thing called dvitvam. There's reduplication. So the word duplicates. So that's why you have much, which becomes mumuksh. And then we can add a to talk about the desire itself. Or we can add u to talk about the one who desires. Okay. So hopefully that's registering somewhere, but it's okay. We're always going to come back to these things, right? But the first thing of sanadyanta dhatu vritti, right? So we saw. So today we're going to look at krit vrittis a little bit more in detail today. And we can stop along the way. Feel free to write a question mark in the chat or raise your hand and I can pause along the way. Okay. So I wanted to talk about Kṛdanta today. Okay, so we're already topic 7. We've skipped a few topics along the way, but topic 7. So Kṛdantam. Okay, you want to repeat after me. Kṛdantam. Kṛdantam. Okay, so let's just look at the word itself, right? Anta, we know means ending with, right? Ending with krit. Ending with krit pratyaya, a suffix called krit. So those suffix, those pratipadikas which end with a suffix called krit. Okay. These suffixes we add to a root, a dhatu, to make a new pratipadika. So if you look at this equation here, dhatu plus krit pratyaya is pratipadika. Okay. So close your eyes for a second. You don't have to actually do that, but close your eyes for a second. What is a Kṛdanta? It's a new pratipadika, which is made by adding a krit pratyaya to a dhatu. Okay. What is a Kṛdanta? Dhatu plus krit pratyaya is pratipadika, is a new pratipadika. Okay, so I'm saying it in a few different ways so you can see what, but just spend a second really getting that equation. Okay, what is a Kṛdanta? You're making a new pratipadika, but it has this action sense along with it. A way to remember this is krit, right? Kr means to do, right? So that action sense comes along. This is a bit of a confusing way, but maybe this will make more sense to you. In other words, nominalization. So to make a noun or to make a new pratipadika out of a dhatu, nominalization, making a new pratipadika or noun out of a dhatu is done by suffixing krit pratyaya. Okay. There are more than 100 krit pratyayas. We're not going to see 100, obviously. There's some groups that we can remember so we can get the main ones. This is important right here. This came up in one of our last classes about samasa. But this question came up before, but want to pay attention to this, that the new pratipadika, okay, and the declined subanta of that pratipadika are both called Kṛdanta. Okay, so we keep saying it makes a new pratipadika, but if I decline that pratipadika, I still call that word a Kṛdanta. Okay, so for example, the word neya, okay, nya dhatu plus ya becomes neya, means that which is known. Okay, I can neyaha, neyo, neyaha, right? That decline form is also a Kṛdanta. Okay. Why we're porting out is it first makes a pratipadika. That pratipadika gets the status of Kṛdanta. So, but then when we decline it, it also retains that status. Okay. So let's learn a little bit more about Krit Pratyaya. Okay. They can denote, the main thing is that they denote a karaka. Okay. Do you remember what a karaka is? This is actually one of the first lessons that we ever did. A karaka we know actually quite deeply, but we might have forgotten that name. A karaka is a factor of action. So there's 6 karakas that we've seen, right? Karta, karma, karanam, sampradhanam, apadanam, and adhikaranam. Okay, some people say, well, want to add a 7th one and they say sambandham, like sambandhe shashti. Sambandha is not a karaka. Sambandha is actually, if you don't have any of these 6, it's called sambandha, technically. Based on how a thing or person is related to a given action, the status of one of the karakas can be given to it, right? And this is a side point, it's not so relevant today, but the karaka and vibhakti are independent concepts, okay? So we want to know that they're not the same. A vibhakti can denote a karaka, but vibhakti can also tell you and give you a non-karaka meaning, right? So some people will say first case means karta. That's not always true, right? So we don't want to automatically link them all the time. That's besides the point. But these karakas, these 6 karakas. So a krit pratyaya, this pratyaya that we're adding to the dhatu, it can denote, it can point to any of these karakas, any of these 6 karakas. Karta, karma, karanam, etc. Right? Or it can be bhava, bhave. Okay, bhava or bhave means the meaning of the dhatu itself. Okay, the meaning of the dhatu itself. So an example of that, here. Here I have it. So, for example, one krit pratyaya is called lut. Okay, and it denotes bhava, the action itself. Lut is similar to the English ing. Okay, so for example, sleeping, if I look at sleeping, it gives the action itself, sleep, plus ing. It's not saying the object of sleep, ing. It's not saying the doer of sleep, ing, right? It's not saying the instrument of sleep. It's just saying sleep. And then you add this ing, sleeping. So bhava is just, it gives the meaning of the action itself. It doesn't give that extra karaka sense to it. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay. So let's come back here. So this krit pratyas can denote the karaka, and it can denote a bhava, the meaning of the dhatu itself. Okay. So we already know this, right? That a dhatu, so this third point here, a dhatu and a krit pratyaya meet together to make the simple pratipadika. We call it Kṛdanta. Yeah, we already saw this. This is repetitive. So look at the example here. So for example, it says nya. Okay, nya, dhatu, to know, plus trich. This is just one of the krit pratyas. I'll answer that question in a moment. That's in the chat. Okay. So this example right here, nya, to know, plus trich. Okay, trich gives the meaning of an agent. In English, we would say ER, right? Driver. We wouldn't say cooker, we call it a chef. Sleeper, right? All these different, these ERs. Cutter, right? So this gives that karaka sense of karta. So nya plus tr becomes nyatr, becomes nyata, is one nyata, the knower, the agent of knowing. Okay. This type of derivation, it says right at the bottom here, is called kartari vyutpatti, right? Vyutpatti is a derivation, kartari in the sense of karta, right? In the sense of karta. It's giving that kartari sense, the karta, right? So we call it kartari vyutpatti. Okay, derivation in the sense of an agent. Okay. And another example here, we see loka, to experience, plus ganya, okay? That's one of the other pratyas. It gives the sense of karma, the object of action. So we would have the English ed, experienced. That which is the object of experience is what we call experienced. Right? It just adds an akara. The ganya goes away, just adds an akara. So lok plus a becomes loka. So that's another example of how it gives the karaka meaning. Or bhava, it can give bhava as well. Okay. So when I'm saying all krit pratyas are used in the sense of karaka and or bhava, when I say thus karaka and bhava are called the basic sense. Okay, so the basic sense of a krit pratyaya is it's going to denote a karaka or bhava, or the meaning of the dhatu itself. Okay, that's the basic sense. In that basic sense, it's also going to be present tense. But we'll see that there's some additional senses that can add tense. Okay, we're going to see that in a moment. This basic sense, there's just going to be, we're just focusing on present tense. But some of these can add another layer, an additional sense. One of those additional layers can be an addition of tense. So past tense or future tense, like that. Okay, we'll see those examples in a moment. There's a question about nyatra. Is nyatra a pratipadika? So that's right here. I have a dhatu plus a krit pratyaya. What does that make? It makes a new pratipadika. Right? So that's correct. It is nyatra is a pratipadika. We can call that a Kṛdanta. If I decline it, the one being nyata, nyato, right? The nyata 1 would also be called a Kṛdanta. Okay. But this right here is not declined yet. It's the pratipadika. Okay, let's just look at the additional sense. Okay, on top of this basic sense that we just talked about, some krit pratyayas can indicate more things. For example, time of the action, right? When it happened. It can indicate the necessity of the action, etc. Right? These are called additional senses. On top of there's always going to be a karaka or bhava. On top of that, there can be an additional sense. For example, nya, to know, plus ktavatu. Okay, ktavatu, K-T-V-T-U, ktavatu. Okay. So nya, to know, ktavatu gives the karaka sense of agent, karta, right? ER. Now that's the basic sense. The additional sense it gives is the agent of past action. Okay, so it's not the agent of present action or the agent of future action, it's the agent of past action. How specific we can get. That's why Sanskrit, why we study grammar, because when we study Vedanta, each word has a very specific meaning, right? And we can get that if we learn Sanskrit. This word becomes nyatavat. The doer, the one who knew. So he knew in the past, one who knew. It's knowing in the past, right? Okay. The second example, gum plus tavya. Okay. I know we're talking about all these different pratyas. We're going to learn some of these pratyas in time, but I just want to give this basic sense, additional sense idea. Here tavya gives the sense of object. What's an object? Karma. Right? A karma is an object. The object. Plus, it indicates necessity that one should do. So gantavya, gam plus tavya becomes gantavya, that which should, and then karmani, right, be reached. Right? That which should be reached. So moksha is gantavya, that which should be reached. or the store is gantavya. I want to go to the store. It's that which should be reached. It's the object, plus there's a necessity, right? It should be done. Feel free to just, even if you're just a little bit foggy and you may feel like you missed something, feel free to put a question mark in the chat so I can review anything. Okay. So just to recap what we just saw, right, is that we're talking about Kṛdanta. What is a Kṛdanta? Kṛdanta is we're talking about, we'll start with Kṛdanta. A Kṛdanta is a new Pratipadika, which is made by Dhatu plus Krit Pratyaya. Okay. Now there's two layers of this. The first is a basic sense. It has a Karaka sense to it, or it can be Bhave, right? On top of that, there's an additional sense that sometimes come in terms of, for example, time that it was done and necessity. Those are two examples. We'll see some more. Now, we're just going to touch this topic today. One of the types of Krit Pratyayas. Okay, now notice I'm not talking about Kṛdanta, I'm talking about the Pratyaya, the suffix, Krit Pratyaya, is called Kṛtyaha, right? So Kṛtya, you can repeat after me, Kṛtya, Kṛtya. So this Kṛtya is a subcategory of Krit Pratyayas. Okay, it's a subgroup. So within Kṛdanta, one of the groups is called Kṛtya. Now, right, there's going to be a basic meaning and additional meaning. The basic meaning is it gives the sense of karma, karmani. And sometimes it can give the meaning of bhava also, right? It depends on how the intention of the speaker, right? A lot of times the intention of the speaker it's most likely going to be karma, but also it can be used sometimes in the sense of bhava. So sometimes there's the flexibility like that, but sometimes some are specifically bhave or specifically karma, okay? An additional meaning of Kṛtya. Okay, what is the additional meaning? What's that second layer? The second layer is sense of direction. That's not as helpful. More helpful is necessity, fitness, capacity, etc. Okay. So for example, right, the meanings are like an object, right? We're talking about karma. It's an object, a karma, right? An object which should be done. You see the necessity? It should be done. Or the fitness, object which is fit to be done. We see this a lot in Bhagavad Gita because Bhagavan is saying that you are fit for action. This is something which are fit to be done. You are eligible for this, Arjuna. Object which is necessarily to be done, which is possible to be done. Okay, so those are the meanings that you get, those additional meanings. If you only really need to remember one, because the rest, they all kind of come with it. I would just remember should be done. Okay, should be done. And these others are, are different flavors of should be done. Right? Should be done is connected to fit to be done, necessarily to be done, right? They're all kind of similar in that way. So that's the main meaning. This says the same exact thing, but instead of the word object, it says action. Because if it's in the sense of bhava, right? then it's just the action. It's not an object then, right? It's an action which should be done. It's an action which is fit to be done instead of the object of action, right? Yeah, okay. When we talk about the examples, you will probably only mention one of these meanings, right? Because it can be any of these depending on the attention of the speaker oftentimes, right? But so we'll just choose one of them. Most likely should be done. Okay. There are after we remove the it letters, there's 3 types of Kṛtya. Okay, or Kṛtya, Kṛtyaha. Okay, one which has the content of yakara, one which has the contents of tavya, and the third aniya. Okay, so ya, tavya, aniya. Ya, tavya, aniya. Okay. So we saw that this is a subcategory of Krit Pratyaya. It's called Kṛtya or Kṛtyaha. Kṛtyaha has a basic meaning of being karmani or bhave, and it has the additional meaning of should be done or a fitness to be done, right? Fit to be done. There's these 3 types, ya, tavya, and aniya. This ya is common to, letter is common to all 3, right? And so then you can tell so then you can tell which are the it letters as well, right? Yat, kyap, nyat. Right. Tavyat, tavya, the content is tavya, and a niyar, the content is aniya. Before, because we only have 2 more minutes, I want to show you some examples of these. Okay, so these are examples of, remember how I said that there's those, there's 3. There's ya, tavya, and aniya. The first one, we're just going to look at yat. Okay, here's some examples of yat ending words. Let's look at these ones here. Nya plus yat. Nya plus yat becomes nyeya. We'll see next time how it's made. Nya plus yat, so to know. Then we add this yat, right? It's going to give the karmani sense and should be done. So nyeya is that which should be known. So in Vedanta, we'll talk about 3 things. Jnanam, knowing. Jnata, the knower. And jneya, that which is should be known. The object of knowledge, Brahman. The knowledge itself, the one who is knowing, the jiva, or it depends how but the jiva, and then jneya, the subject matter, or Brahman, Atma. So these come up. There's an example, there's a questions here, so we'll pause here, but you can see some other examples. So for example, the third one, prama, to know, and then we get prameya, that which is to be known. So then we get another combination of pramata, the knower, pramana, the means of knowledge, and prameya, that which should be known. So you see, these are used in Vedanta. Yeah. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So I'm going to take these questions, but feel free to take a break for because we have only a few more minutes to our next class.